Hey guys, I'm Jessica and I'm here today to talk to you about 10 things you can do if you have writer's block. The first thing you should do is think about your future self. I'm the type of person who hates disappointing people, and that includes my future self. So whenever I'm sitting down and I cannot think of what to write, I always think about how mad I'm going to be tomorrow if I don't get my words done today, because that means I'm just going to have to do more tomorrow. So always think of your future self. If you don't want her or him to be angry, then write more today. The second thing you should do is review your goals. And I'm not just talking about your daily word count goal or your 50,000 word count goal. I'm talking about the reasons why you're writing. I would write down and post next to your desk or on your computer why you're doing this. Are you writing because you want to prove something to yourself? Are you writing so that you can help change the world in some way? Are you writing because you want to get published someday? Having that posted next to where you're writing reminds you that you're doing this every single day to reach that goal. The third thing you can do is take a walk or go for a drive or take a shower. Do something to get your mind off of what you're doing. And usually that helps you get your mind back onto writing because you took a mental break. For example, I drove to work yesterday. I live about 30 minutes from one of the campuses I teach at, and I forgot my phone. So I usually listen to podcasts on my phone when I'm driving to and from work, but I didn't have it, so I just rolled down my windows and I thought of what I wanted to write for NaNoWriMo. I think it was Walter Dean Myers that said that he would take walks daily and that would help him figure out what he wanted to write for the day or work through problems in his novels. And I think that's a great idea. Not only is taking a walk allowing yourself to clear your mind, it's also getting you out of your space. So if you're anything like me, you get kind of claustrophobic in your house after a while. So I like to take walks outside because it helps me feel free again, it helps me relax, and it helps me get inspired for what I'm writing. The fourth thing you can do is something that I do all the time. Talk to someone about what you're writing, but make sure it's someone you trust. Make sure it's someone that knows a little bit about your story. Like, I will choose to talk to either my boyfriend or my sister normally because they know what I'm writing about and I don't have to give them a whole lot of backstory before I get into my current problem. And most of the time, the act of just talking out loud about it helps me fix the problem. But sometimes they do have really good tips also, or suggestions for what I could do, and that helps as well. I like talking to my boyfriend about it because he is the complete opposite of me. We both like very different kinds of books and we both have very different styles. Like, he doesn't write a lot, but when he does write, he has a very different style. So talking to him about it, he always realizes something that I don't realize just because we're such different people. With my sister, we're very similar people, so she always reaffirms what I want to hear. My boyfriend doesn't always do that, but sometimes you need that. You need that opposite opinion to help you realize what you need to change in your story. And that is super helpful when you are trying to get over writer's block, when you're stuck. Number 5, you can do timed writing, and this is really helpful. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of word wars. So this is when you battle other people, you set the clock for like 10 minutes, you write as much as you can, and then you see how many words you have at the end and compare with other people. This can be really fun also if you're like in a room with them and you have a prize like candy at the end. There is a Twitter account, I'm sure there's more than one now, but there's one that I followed a lot back in the day that had word war challenges specifically for NaNoWriMo, and sometimes they would tell you like include a rubber duck in your story, and that would be really helpful. So I suggest you look for that if you're interested. Another thing you can do if you're doing timed writing is set your font color to white so that you can't read anything you've written while you're typing. And that can be helpful if you're like me and you like to go back and immediately reread what you wrote. That can slow you down. So if you change your font to white, you can't do that. And then at the end, you can change it back to black and read everything at once. Number 6, you can drink more coffee. or whatever you want to drink, tea, beer, whatever gets you going. I like drinking a lot of coffee. It's gonna be hard this year because I'm breastfeeding still, so I can't have a lot of caffeine, but coffee has been my go-to when I'm stuck. Especially if you are writing after work or after school and you're exhausted, sometimes you need that extra caffeine boost to get you going. Number 7, look up a random image generator online. I use this even when I'm not working on a novel. Like if I want to write a short story, sometimes I'll go to a random image generator online and it pulls up a random picture and you just start writing based on what you feel at the moment. Like it might be a picture of a car in the woods and you start writing based on what you think is happening in that picture. This can be fun to do when you're working on a novel because you have to come up with a way to fit that picture into your story. So go look up a random image generator, especially if you're a very visual person, this can be really helpful. Number 8, you can always skip the scene that you're stuck on and come back later. I usually write linearly until like a quarter or a third of the way through the novel, and then I just start writing scenes because I get stuck. That's normally the point where I get stuck, and that's fine. It does make it more difficult later when you're trying to edit and revise, but it's better to keep writing than to obsess over one scene that you're stuck on. Number 9 is writing the backstories to each of your characters. The first thing I like about this idea is that it is developing your characters. You are learning more about them and why they are the way they are if you go back and write their backstory. Another thing I like about it is whenever I've done this, I've actually used it in my story. It's worked its way into my story somehow. This can be especially important for characters like parents in stories. If you write young adult, writing parents can be really challenging, especially for me. I don't know why, but parents can come off as very one-dimensional. So if you go back and write each parent's backstory, it's gonna make them seem more three-dimensional because you know more about them. You don't necessarily have to tell the parent's backstory in the novel, but they'll come across as real characters if they have a real story. This can also help you figure out which characters are more important than others. Like you might have a friend of your main character that you didn't feel like was very important until you realize that they have this huge story to tell or they can help the main character in some way. And you never know, you might throw out those words when you get to revising your novel, but at least you have invested in your characters and developed them, and that will show when your final draft is done. Number 10 is my favorites because it's kind of a challenge as well as a good way to get over your writer's block. So every year I fill up a jar with little slips of paper, and on these slips of paper I have objects, quotes, settings, things that I can incorporate into my scenes. So for example, if I were to draw one out right now, if I was stuck on a scene, I would have to incorporate a website into my scene. So I left them kind of open-ended. I can make this whatever website I want, but I would have to incorporate a website. And this can actually be really fun. It helps that I know what I'm writing because I wrote things that I know will be helpful. There are a few random ones, like I think I wrote like salad and lost cat, but for the most part it will fit my story. Like I didn't write anything like a magic plant because, you know, I'm writing contemporary and that wouldn't fit. It doesn't look very full, but I wrote a ton of stuff. I might add more. But you'll probably see me using this throughout November because I get stuck a lot. So those are 10 things you can do when you get writer's block. I hope you guys found these tips helpful and you can use some of this next month when you're stuck. I'm so excited that I finally figured out what I'm gonna write. I'm going to make a video about it after I do a little bit more planning. I thought this was gonna end up being another year where I kind of just go into it not having a fully formed story, but since I came up with my story yesterday, I have time to plan it out before November 1st. I hope you guys are having fun planning your novels for next month. Don't forget to add me on NaNoWriMo if you want to be writing buddies. A lot of you have added me and it's really exciting, so remember to do that. Also remember to subscribe if you want to keep watching these videos. I'm gonna make more planning videos in October and then videos in November. I don't know if I'm gonna do, some people try to do daily videos for NaNoWriMo, and I haven't seen very many people succeed, so I haven't decided yet what I'm gonna do in November. But for the rest of October, I'm planning to do a few videos a week. So I will see you guys again in a few days.